Welcome to another Read Aloud book tour for the Mortal Instruments Book 1, City of Bones by New York Times bestseller Cassandra Clare. Chapter 1, Pandemonium. "You've got to be kidding me," the bouncer said, folding his arms across his massive chest. He stared down at the boy in the red zip-up jacket and shook his shaved head. "You can't bring that thing in here." The 50 or so teenagers in line outside the Pandemonium Club leaned forward to eavesdrop. It was a long wait to get into the all-ages club, especially on a Sunday, and not much generally happened in line. The bouncers were fierce and would come down instantly on anyone who looked like they were going to start trouble. 15-year-old Clary Frey, standing in line with her best friend Simon, leaned forward along with everyone else, hoping for some excitement. "Oh, come on." The kid hoisted the thing up over his head. It looked like a wooden beam pointed at one end. "It's part of my costume." The bouncer raised an eyebrow. "Which is what?" The boy grinned. He was normal enough looking, Clary thought, for Pandemonium. He had electric blue-dyed hair that stuck up around his head like the tendrils of a startled octopus, but no elaborate facial tattoos or big metal bars through his ears or lips. "I'm a vampire hunter." He pushed down on the wooden thing. It bent as easily as a blade of grass bending sideways. "It's fake. Foam rubber, see?" The boy's wide eyes were way too bright a green, Clary noticed, the color of antifreeze, spring grass. Colored contact lenses, probably. The bouncer shrugged, abruptly bored. "Whatever, go on in." The boy slid past him, quick as an eel. Clary liked the lilt to his shoulders, the way he tossed his hair as he went. There was a word for him that her mother would have used. Insouciant. "You thought he was cute," said Simon, sounding resigned, "didn't you?" Clary dug her elbow into his ribs, but didn't answer. Page 1 and 2 of this book start right in the middle of some action. 15-year-old Clary Frey and her best friend Simon are said to be waiting in line to go to an all-ages club, Pandemonium. While they're waiting in line, they see some things that seem out of the ordinary. A boy with blue-dyed hair and antifreeze green eyes. So we've got this feeling that life is normal. They're waiting to go into a club. But then there's that little bit of extra, like, what's going to happen next? They're building this anticipation as they wait to go into this club, and we, the reader, wait to follow them in to see what happens with these characters. Pages 2 through 4. Inside the club was full of dry ice smoke. Colored lights played over the dance floor, turning it into a multicolored fairyland of blues and acid greens, hot pinks and golds. The boy in the red jacket stroked the long, razor-sharp blade in his hands, an idle smile playing over his lips. It had been so easy. A little bit of a glamour on the blade to make it look harmless. Another glamour on his eyes, and the moment the bouncer had looked straight at him, he was in. Of course, he could probably have gotten by without all the trouble, but it was part of the fun. Fooling the Mundys, doing it all out in the open right in front of them, getting off on the blank looks on their sheep-like faces. Not that the humans didn't have their uses. The boy's green eyes scanned the dance floor, where slender limbs clad in scraps of silk and black leather appeared and disappeared inside the revolving columns of smoke as the Mundys danced. Girls tossed their long hair, boys swung their leather-clad hips, and bare skin glittered with sweat. Vitality just poured off them, waves of energy that filled him with a drunken dizziness. His lip curled. They didn't know how lucky they were. They didn't know what it was like to eke out life in a dead world, where the sun hung limp in the sky like a burned cinder. Their lives burned as brightly as candle flames, and were as easy to snuff out. His hand tightened on the blade he carried, and he had begun to step out onto the dance floor when a girl broke away from the mass of dancers and began walking toward him. He stared at her. She was beautiful for a human. Long hair, nearly the precise color of black ink, charcoaled eyes, floor-length white gown, the kind women used to wear when this world was younger. Lace sleeves belled out around her slim arms. Around her neck was a thick silver chain on which hung a dark red pendant the size of a baby's fist. He only had to narrow his eyes to know that it was real and precious. His mouth started to water as she neared him. Vital energy pulsed from her like blood from an open wound. She smiled, passing him, beckoning with her eyes. He turned to follow her, tasting the phantom sizzle of her death on his lips. It was always easy. He could already feel the power of her evaporating life coursing through his veins like fire. Humans were so stupid. They had something so precious, and they barely safeguarded it at all. They threw away their lives for money, for packets of powder, for a stranger's charming smile. The girl was a pale ghost retreating through the colored smoke. She reached the wall and turned, bunching her skirt up in her hands, lifting it as she grinned at him. Under the skirt, she was wearing thigh-high boots. He sauntered up to her, his skin prickling with her nearness. Up close, she wasn't so perfect. He could see the mascara smudged under her eyes, the sweat sticking in her hair to her neck. He could smell her mortality, the sweet rot of corruption. Got you, he thought. A cool smile curled her lips. She moved to the side, and he could see that she was leaning against a closed door. "No admittance, storage," was scrawled across it in red paint. She reached behind her for the knob, turned it, and slid inside. He caught a glimpse of stacked boxes, tangled wiring, a storage room. He glanced behind him. No one was looking. So much the better if she wanted privacy. He slipped into the room after her, unaware that he was being followed. Pages 2 through 4 take us into the club, not with our main characters, Clary and Simon. So they're already in the club. And we're observing this person as he's following these Mundies. And we're talking about this Mundies group of people that are human and they don't value their lives. This narrator right now is taking us through some descriptions of life and losing the life that we have. And at one point he says the vitality just pours off of them. The energy is filling him with drunkenness. So we've got this distinct feeling that we've now left reality and we're in the mind of someone who is not a human. But the author is not in any main character's head. So this is a really interesting way to start a book as she's just stringing us along with details. And where are we going with this? What's going to happen with this boy who wants to taste the death of her on his lips? That's at the bottom of page 3. So Cassandra Clare is building this world that we know is not real into this fantasy. And if you're good with vampires, werewolves, demons, fairies, all those types of characters, she will slowly lead you into a world that seems completely possible. Okay, so I hope you really enjoy reading City of Bones. I know it's one of my favorites. It's a long series with 2 spin-off series. I actually enjoy the spin-off series, both of them, more than this original series, but you have to have that foundation first on this original series. So I hope you enjoy The Mortal Instruments, Book 1, City of Bones. I hope it hooks you as a reader. See you next time on the next Read Aloud book tour.